Well, Broncos country, we are here. What is poppin'? It is your boy Mark here with Marcky Sports. And the hot debate topic is who should the Broncos take in the first round? Should they take a running back? Should they take a wide receiver? If any of you guys have been listening to this channel, you know that I am absolutely not a part of team draft a running back in the first round. I'm going to break down why. We're going to use some historical data, historical context, and look at the last 14 drafts, 15 drafts since 2010 to really get a good picture and evaluate, is it smart and is it the right decision to take a running back in the first round, regardless of what kind of aspirations your team's got. Let's get into it and discuss why I feel like running back should be off the table, specifically in the first round, and especially in this draft. It gives us even more reasons why. So before we get into that, guys, I'm almost at 1,000 subs, man. Almost there. If you're a subscriber, thank you. I appreciate you, man. This community that I built has been great. Tell a friend to subscribe. Have a friend tell a friend. Keep it going, and we'll be at the goal here well before the draft. So I appreciate you guys in advance. Like the video, and let me know what you guys think in the comments. Interact with me always. I always appreciate that and love to do that as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. So taking a look at the running backs. The running backs that have been drafted since 2010, and some of these guys is ugly, all right? So here's actually a really funny thing that I noticed as well. You'll see that the league really changed in these last 14 years, man. Like the way that the league shifted is actually very interesting when you're looking at a ton of these guys. And that's what I found to be pretty fascinating when I looked at this list. So we're going to start here in 2010. We're going to go CJ Spiller, Ryan Matthews. Man, that's a name. That's the San Diego Chargers. And Javid Best. Now, CJ Spiller didn't end up really becoming much of a player. He didn't sign a second contract with the original team. He kind of fizzled out, I think, after his time in Buffalo. I'm trying to remember. I think he might have played in then we went to New England, Baltimore, something like that. Anyways, didn't end up being a really good pick. He was picked 9th overall, by the way. Ryan Matthews was picked 12th overall by the Chargers. He ended up having quite a bit of injuries, if I recall, and he got hurt. And then Javid Best actually he was a pretty decent player, fun to watch, I think coming out of Clemson, if I'm not mistaken. But poor guy had a career-ending injury, which really sucked. That was really heartbreaking for Javid Best. But none of them ended up signing a second contract with the original team. Mark Ingram, drafted famously number 28th by Sean Payton when he was the New Orleans Saints. He did end up signing a second contract with the team. And I actually ended up having a really solid career. Was he worth the first-round pick? I mean, listen, that's hard to say. He played for a long time. He was really productive. I think at 28, the value there was actually half decent. David Wilson in 2012. Oh, by the way, he was the only running back in 2011. David Wilson in 2012, Doug Martin, and Trent Richardson all drafted in the 2012 draft. Trent Richardson was 3rd overall. We know how that went. That dude was a bust. He was horrible. He was traded for a first-round pick from Cleveland to Indianapolis, I think after his rookie season, and he just sucked. Yeah, point blank period. He just wasn't good. Doug Martin was really interesting because Doug Martin was a damn good player, man. Dynamic. I remember in that year in fantasy, he had the fantasy record at the time, like 55 points. He was a really, really good player, man. Overall solid with the Bucs. He did end up signing a second contract with the team. The problem is after he signed that contract, he was not very good. He had a lot of injuries, and he only played, I believe, 2 seasons of that contract. It was like a 5-year deal that ate quite a bit of dead money to get out of it. So it really ended up stinking for him because of the injuries, but he was a really talented and a very good player for that Tampa Bay Bucs team, no doubt about it. And David Wilson, I'm not even going to lie, I'm not even really sure who he is. So he didn't sign another contract. I don't even think he was necessarily good. I might even look into David Wilson. I don't know. I don't even know who the hell he was. Yeah, 32nd overall pick. That's crazy. He actually ended up playing just 2 seasons with the Giants. Didn't play too much his first year, 358 yards. Then he only played 5 years in year 2, and then he was. Oh, look at that! Damn, that sucks for him. Actually, that really stinks. He actually had a really bad neck injury, and he was advised to never play football again after his sophomore year, or I guess his second year. That really stinks for him. So hate to see that. After this, just treacherous, trait, because like I said, I mean, Mark Ingram was solid, but he was always kind of a role player. So justifying it at the first rounder, maybe, maybe not. It's up to you. Doug Martin was a really good player, but after he signed the contract, it was bad. Everybody else was really bad, like very, very bad, whether it be injuries or just performance related. So for the next 2 drafts, no running backs were taken. This was really the shift in the league mentality, because before this, there was actually a ton of good backs that were taken, early, that ended up having second contracts. Then you get to 2015 where you have 2 running backs taken in the first round. So it kind of starts to peek its head a little bit, right? Ooh, maybe we should take running backs. And we all know what happened with Melvin Gordon. He didn't score any touchdowns his rookie season. He ended up having a really good second and third year. His final year in San Diego was decent. He was good. The Chargers didn't want to re-sign him. He ends up signing with the Broncos, and he was a talented runner, but one of the most hated players here in Denver's history, just because he had attitude problems. He thought his shit don't stink. He loved to fumble the football, so I couldn't stand that. Todd Gurley is a really interesting one, man, because Todd Gurley was an absolute game changer for the Rams. That dude was so good. Signed a lucrative second contract, and then right when he did that, after they wore his ass down into the ground, he was having all sorts of injuries and literally fell off of a cliff. Like, not literally, figuratively, but like he went from being elite to terrible just like that because of the knee injuries. He had some degenerate stuff going on in the knees. He signed the contract. They ate it was a $45 million of the contract was guaranteed. They ate like 30 of it. He played 1 year. He was unbelievably unproductive. And they ended up eating a big chunk of that salary. So, yeah, you can say he signed a second contract. He didn't do much after that. Ezekiel Elliott, same kind of thing here with Zeke. Very good player, super talented. I think it worked out, pretty well for the Cowboys for a little bit. And then right when he signs the contract, very common with running backs because there's a lot of wear and tear on these guys. He was awful. One of the worst. It's not really talked about a lot because maybe it's the Cowboys, but that was one of the worst contracts given because they were eating so much money. $90 million, I think, if I remember. And he didn't do anything at all for the team. Ended up kind of going, team to team as of late. He actually recently signed. He played with the Cowboys last year, but he was a big-time shell of himself. So he did sign an additional contract with the team, but it wasn't all that good. So right here, you see 3 running backs in a row signing contracts with their original team that drafted him. The second one is Christian McCaffrey, and he's an interesting one because the value was definitely there. He was awesome in his time with Carolina. He did end up signing a pretty big contract extension with Carolina. He played with them for 1 season after he did that, though. And then they traded him to San Francisco, which really, really helped him out, and he had an awesome career. So good for him, man. We love Christian McCaffrey. We already know that, but he's somebody that worked out. Now battling with a lot of injuries, but extremely valuable player. The guy was a kind of a unicorn in terms of the way that he just balls, man. Catching the ball, running, he was awesome. Then so now everybody's starting to get back on this bandwagon. Like, oh man, look at these 3 running backs. Maybe it's not the worst thing to take running backs in the first round. You had Leonard Fournette the same year as Christian McCaffrey. He went 4th overall. He didn't actually end up signing a second contract with the Jags, but he did go on to have a pretty damn good career. Played with the Steelers, obviously. Not Steelers, the Buccaneers for a little bit. Won a Super Bowl there with Tom Brady. He was really good. They called him Playoff Lenny, somebody that played really well in the playoffs. So he ended up being a solid player, but again, not good value for the Jags. Took him at 4. They ended up really getting like 2 or 3 years of him, and then he was out. Sony Michel was actually the last first-round drafted running back that won a Super Bowl with the original team that drafted him. Problem is he did nothing for them that year. He was really a disappointment for the New England Patriots. Never really had many good seasons. Didn't end up signing a second contract, kind of fizzled out. Same thing with Rashad Penny, right? He was a really interesting player, man. I forgot he was even drafted in the first round. Super fast, athletic, good Lord. Every time he played, it seemed like Rashad Penny was balling out, making plays, but man, injuries derailed his career, which ultimately led to him not getting a second contract. And if Saquon Barkley ain't getting a second contract from his team, that just goes to show you, man, this is what happens with backs. You have them for 3 or 4 years and you dump them. I mean, it sucks, but it's the reality of it. Now, was it a big mistake by the Giants? Here's another thing that you can make an argument for. The New York Giants letting Saquon Barkley walk in free agency was the right move for the team. They were awful. And it was also a very good move for the Eagles. It was just one of those things where, It worked out for both sides. Now, the Giants, they just love to give away their, top picks. They always like to win those last games in the last couple of years. It's crazy because in 2023, they won a game against the Colts or something, a worthless, meaningless game in Week 18. And it cost them getting Jaden Daniels, or having the opportunity to get Jaden Daniels, because they went from the 2nd pick to the 6th pick. Anyways, they did the same thing again this year. They might settle for Shador, but yeah, that's a whole nother thing we can make. And then Josh Jacobs, right? Oakland Raiders, he was so good for them. Such a good runner. Always seemed like he was kicking the Broncos' ass whenever he played against them. And they just let him go. He ends up not signing a second contract with them. He goes to the Green Bay Packers. Last year, I thought he was really solid. But still, crazy to think that last year with the Packers was the first time in his career he caught a touchdown pass. It's pretty wild. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we all know, and this was the funny thing, because a lot of the times people were saying, man, if you're going to take a running back, you're better off with like those, really good elite teams that are a player away, a running back away from winning the Super Bowl. And the Kansas City Chiefs were primed at that point, right? I already had win and one, or I think they went to one at that point. They got Clyde Edwards-Helaire from LSU. Everybody was like, what a fit this is going to be, and he was not good. Not good. He's not even in the league no more. So he didn't really do nothing. They ended up winning with like David Williams or whatever his name was, and he ended up having a big game, and we already know, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire was terrible. And then we got Travis Etienne. He's obviously going to be to be determined. He's still on his rookie contract. They did pick up his 5th-year option. I don't think he's going to re-sign with the Jags. I don't think the Jags are going to re-sign him. Doesn't make sense. They actually might even trade him still in this offseason. Good player, battled some injuries, but he's really solid overall. I think he could justify it. And then Najee Harris went a pick before him to the Steelers. He was decent. We talked a lot about Najee, obviously, before free agency. I mean, not really efficient back, but just extremely durable. I mean, never missed a game in the 4 years he played. Over 1,000 yards every year, really consistent. Not the greatest back, but solid, man. That's just kind of the best way to put it with the Steelers. But they obviously didn't feel all that good about it either, and they end up not giving him a second contract. He's now with the San Diego Chargers, or Los Angeles Chargers. I still call him San Diego, especially because you see it here. All right, and then obviously you got some a couple more to be determined, in Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs. And in these guys' cases, yeah, I mean, they're phenomenal players. The Jahmyr Gibbs to the Lions is a glove of a fit, and the Lions are a very good team, so he helps really make them that much better. You can justify that pick, in my opinion, especially because of where the Lions ended up being, just from the roster standpoint. They were so loaded. The Falcons, yeah, Bijan's been good for them, but it doesn't matter how good he is, because they obviously keep using Algier, which, like I said, I think fantasy-wise it's annoying. NFL fan-wise it's annoying. But I get it. They want to preserve him. Algier's a good player too. But let's face it, guys. The Falcons' issues are not offensive. They haven't been for the last couple years. It's really been because of defense and building out a really solid team. I mean, you've got Drake London, 1st-round pick wide receiver. You've got Bijan Robinson, 1st-round pick running back. You've got Kyle Pitts, 1st-round pick tight end. You went out there and you got Kirk Cousins. You did all this kind of stuff for nothing. And you can't even win the NFC South, which is a terrible decision. So, listen, you can make the argument that even though Bijan Robinson is a really good player, it was a bad pick by the Falcons. They passed on a couple of really good playmakers. One of them happens to play for the Philadelphia Eagles. And as always, when I go live, I'm blanking on his name, but he's a stud. And, yeah. So, it's kind of starting to... It's weird because it took like... You can see these ones were all really bad. Then the league was like, nope, we ain't even touching them. And it could obviously be that there just wasn't that many good running backs. And then they started to kind of peak a little bit, and then they just kind of said, no, there was no running back selected in 2020 after Najee Harris. But that was a bad draft. But then even after years like 2023, where you have Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan, who I think are both fantastic players, no one was drafted last year. So the league is kind of like, I don't know. You just don't get your money's worth if you're a team. It always makes a little bit more sense for rosters that are already really good, but it's just tough. So you had 21 total running backs drafted in the last 14 years, which is not a lot. It's like an average of 1.5 running backs a draft. 5 of them signed a second contract with their team. 13 of them did not. 3 are to be determined. And just to note, guys, with these yeses, like we talked about, Ezekiel Elliott signed a contract, but he was an incredibly bad value. Incredibly bad value for the contract. Same with Todd Gurley. And same with Doug Martin. So the only guys that really still performed and you could say got a lot of value from the second contract was Mark Ingram. And Christian McCaffrey 1 year with the Panthers, but after that, he happened to have a really good career. But how do you judge that if he's traded, right? I mean, he obviously wasn't valued that much by the Panthers, but he could have obviously wanted to get out, and there was a lot of things that happened there. So, all right, well, that's the running backs. Now let's take a look at the receivers, and there's a shitload more, right? And on the surface, a lot of this don't always look that, it doesn't look that much better because there's a lot of bad. But let's really break this in, and let's talk about why receivers are still just a significantly better choice statistically to take in the first round if you're going to do it. Now, I looked through all of these for the more recent one because there's a lot of really bad data actually on the internet. Tackle, center, and guard, any offensive lineman, they typically, get you a lot of value and get you to sign that second contract. But let's go through it, man. Des Bryant, Demaryius Thomas, amazing 2 picks in the 2010 draft. Both signed a second contracts with their team. Both were very valuable, great players. They were in the mid-20s. I think Demaryius was 22nd. I think Des Bryant was 25th, if I remember correctly. But that's really what that was. And then, hold on. This doesn't seem right. See, this is where I got a little bit of bad insight from this as well. I think this is incorrect because it says that Julio Jones did not. But I am pretty sure he signed a second contract with the Falcons. I'm actually almost positive of it. Yep. Oh, yeah. He signed 2 contracts after his rookie deal with the Falcons. A 5-year, $71 million, and then an extension for 3 years and 66 more. So there you go. Sorry, guys. Let me fix the numbers here. All right. So Jonathan Baldwin was a terrible pick by the Chiefs. I completely forgot about that dude. Was not good. And then AJ Green, Julio Jones, both just phenomenal player. I mean, people forget how good AJ Green was too, bro. He was a beast. They were both fantastic. So in those 2 years, 2010 and 2011, 4 out of the 5 first-round drafted receivers were fantastic. Then we go on a little bit of a that's another one they got wrong. I updated this. I could have sworn I updated it. My bad, guys. And it doesn't look like it did. So let me just triple check this. Sign into the Spot Track. All right, Spot Track, here it is. Yep. So this is why this is stupid, because I pulled some of this off ChatGPT. Obviously, I ain't gonna lie, just working smart. And he didn't technically sign a second contract. He signed what they considered to be a rookie extension. And so I remember I went through and double checked them, and I updated it, but it might have not have saved. So anyways, DeAndre Hopkins did. So you got AJ Jenkins, Kendall Wright. Kendall Wright was actually like a half decent receiver, but he didn't end up really doing much after his rookie year. AJ Jenkins, but Michael Floyd was not good with the Cardinals. I think he had a pretty decent stretch of his career. If I remember, he had a lot of injuries. Michael Floyd really brought up a name for me, man. That was interesting. Let me go back here and look. Yeah, he ended up going to New England, and then the Vikings. He wasn't all that good. Never mind. Anyways, so he was bad. Justin Blackmon was, man, he was so talented. Whatever happened to Justin Blackmon? I get him. Oh yeah, they had legal issues. That's right. He got a DUI, and then he ended up doing some crazy shit with the team. Yeah, he just ended up being like a nutcase a little bit. He only played 2 years in his NFL career being a first-round pick. That's crazy. All right, anyways. And then you got DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, he's just one of the – in his peak, he was one of the best receivers in the NFL. So here's the thing, too. With the guys that hit, you're getting all pro, very, very high-level players. Tavon Austin never ended up re-signing with the Rams, but he had a decent, role as a gadget guy. Kelvin Benjamin, Panthers. He kind of fizzled out, didn't really work out. Now, here's a couple of interesting things, and I think they got this one wrong. But Brandon Cooks is a really interesting one because you can look at the pick and say, man, he was really good his rookie season. He ends up getting traded for a first-round pick, getting a fat extension after that, too. So it was almost like, do you count that? Do you not? I mean, obviously, I'm going to keep it for what it was, but that was not really bad value at all for the Saints. In fact, it was really good value because they drafted him, they got some good usage out of him, and then they traded him for another first-round pick. So they got the value right back. So that one is kind of a wash when you look at that. And then, Odell Beckham, I'm pretty sure he signed an extension, right? I mean, he was just way too good. Maybe not. Maybe he got hurt. No. Same thing there. He signed what they call a rookie extension. Very frustrating. Very frustrating. But it makes sense. Rookie extensions are even better because they're basically signing these guys after 3 years. So they're trying to get ahead of it very early. And then Mike Evans ends up being a hit too. Sammy Watkins, if that guy could have stayed healthy, man, he would have been a good player. He was the week 1 fantasy football killer. Like, you had him week 1, he'd blow up for you, and then you could just cut him after that because he didn't do shit. But Sammy Watkins, super, super talented, man. Just the injuries absolutely killed that guy. Rashad Perriman really didn't do all that. And then Nelson Aguilar, man, if he could have just held on to the football, he'd have been a player. Still playing in the league. Kudos to him. But, he ultimately was not a really good first-round pick. So, these 3 guys we can say are washes. Devontae Parker, surprisingly, really good player, man. Super underrated at the peak of his career. He started to fizzle off after some injuries, but he did sign a second contract with the Miami Dolphins. Oh, man, Kevin White. What do we got to say about Kevin White? That was brutal. Kevin White was such a talent, but he also suffered from so many injuries. Couldn't really get anything going. It was tough. Now, Amari Cooper, very interesting one because Amari Cooper was drafted by the Oakland Raiders. The now Las Vegas Raiders. And he played 3 years. He was really solid for the team, and he ends up getting traded in the middle of his rookie, after his 3rd season. He gets traded by the to the Cowboys. What did they trade him for? The Cowboys ended up picking up his 5th-year option, and then they gave him an extension. And I remember, he wanted to get out. The Raiders were really bad at this point. They underwent a lot of different turnover. And let me just see. I mean, I know he was just a good player, like straight up, was really good. And they exercised his 5th-year option, and he was traded, well, what do you know, for a first-round pick. So he's another guy, Brandon Cooks here, we can consider that a wash. Let's make it orange. And then same thing with Amari Cooper, because both of these guys were very good players for their teams and were traded in exchange for a first-round pick. So you guys got to understand that's a wash. You don't see running backs getting traded for a first-round pick. Actually, I take it back. Trent Richardson actually was. I think that they did give him a first-round pick. But he was awful. At least these guys were playing. But he was awful. But yeah, all right. Anyways, let's keep it going. Josh Doxson, not really the best player for Washington. That was really when they were still a shit show of a team. Will Fuller was a player, man. That dude could take the top off of defenses, but another guy that just got a lot of injuries. Corey Coleman, it was the Browns. He never should have been a first-round pick. He was. And then John Ross, like somebody that was so average in college, and because he ran a 4.2, he gets drafted in the first round. Everybody and their mom knew that was a bad pick. So he ends up fizzling out. And then surprisingly, look at that, man. Mike Williams, Los Angeles Chargers in 2017. He was the only one in the 2017 class in the first round of the receivers that actually ended up signing a second contract with the original team. Had some good spurts, man. He's still playing in the league now, but, he was a talented player. Corey Davis, frustrating guy as well. Somebody that never should have gone in the first round, but he did. Calvin Ridley, he might be another guy that's a little bit of a wash here because I know he was traded before he signed anything, and I'm trying to remember if he was traded for a first-round pick. Let me see. So They had his rookie deal, and they ended up trading him before his rookie deal. Off, buddy. Off. You're okay, man. You're okay. All right, my dog wants to get up here, but let me see. Yeah, that's right. He got suspended for gambling. Yeah. And then they just basically traded him for like nothing. Jags got a really good deal from that, but that's right. They suspended him for gambling. So, all right. He didn't work out. DJ Moore was a surprise. DJ Moore was a big surprise because he's still a really, really good player, man. Somebody that you could look at and say, yeah, he was a very valuable first-round pick. Very good player. Ends up getting traded because Carolina Panthers, like I said, just these teams are going through a lot of different turnover. And the fact that a lot of these receivers are looking to get traded or they get traded for a decently high draft pick, sometimes first-rounders, that in and of itself should show you how teams value a lot of these players as well. So there's really no doubt about it. But they... Oh, yeah. Yeah. DJ Moore was a part of that Bryce Young deal. So this one could be a wash because it's like the Panthers traded DJ Moore and the 9th pick as well as their 2024 first rounder. Yeah, that's crazy. Man, the Bears really be fleecing. But anyways, yeah, so he didn't end up signing there. And then you got Marquise Brown, who, good player, injuries have derailed his career, but still playing. When he's healthy, he's good. But yeah, he ended up not getting a second contract from the Ravens. He just re-upped, I think, with the Chiefs. Brandon Ayuk, he snuck into the first round. I loved that pick for the Niners. He ends up being a really good player and just got an extension this offseason. Justin Jefferson, we already know, best receiver in football, man. Minnesota Vikings signed a massive extension. Jalen Reagor, he was a big swing and a miss for the Eagles. He's with the Vikings now. These two guys are together. But yeah, he didn't end up being very good. CeeDee Lamb was an absolute home run. Jerry Jeudy, yeah, you could say up and down for the Broncos. It was a bad pick for us. We also didn't do him any favors. He ended up getting injured kind of in bad times. But we did trade him, and he got a fat extension when he went to the Browns. Had a really solid season for him. So no one can say that it was bad. Henry Ruggs, do we need to even get into that? Yep, he got arrested. He's in jail. He's been in jail for a long time. So that was obviously bad. But, man, I'll tell you what. Henry Ruggs was a baller before he ends up killing somebody for drinking and driving. It was an awful story. But he was a really good player. He showed some legit potential there. Devontae Smith, Eagles, they really learned their lesson. After the Jalen Reagor, they really learned a lot of their lessons. Absolutely killed it. Home run. Yes, he signed an extension. Jalen Waddle signed an extension with his original team. Absolute boss. Jamar Chase, arguably also the best receiver in football. I mean, you're talking the two best receivers in football, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, both first rounders, both very highly drafted, highly touted players. And they both got massive extensions. Jamar Chase now the biggest one ever, surpassing Justin Jefferson prior. Jahan Dotson, I thought he was really good for the Commanders for a couple of, for his rookie year. And then obviously Dan Quinn and everybody came in. They just cleaned house, said anybody that was drafted before is out. Understandable. He didn't really do anything for the Eagles, but he got himself a ring. And then obviously we got a lot of guys that are still NA, but look at some of these names, guys. Jameson Williams, I think, has really come on, especially after, I think he was injured his first year. And then I think he ended up having the gambling thing in his second. Didn't play. But the last couple seasons, he's looked good. He's looked really good as a deep threat for the Lions. So I think he was probably going to get an extension. It's not going to cost him too much. Chris Olave is a great player, and Chris Olave would certainly get an extension if he is able to come out clean from those injuries. He had a really bad concussions last year. Before that, he was very durable, but a very good player. Garrett Wilson, another Ohio State receiver, absolute baller. He probably won't get a second contract with the original team because the Jets are kind of redoing it, but he's one of the better receivers in the NFL. We all know that. Very good pick there. The Jets have just been a mess over the last couple of years. Drake London, fantastic player. Jordan Addison, fantastic. Hold on. Was Jordan Addison? I don't think Jordan Addison was the first round pick. Damn. He was. Jordan Addison's a baller. He's probably going to get another contract with the team because by that time, they could just re-up Justin Jefferson's deal and figure that out. But very good player. Zay Flowers has been very up and down. I think he's a little bit of an underrated receiver because he doesn't get a lot of touchdowns and big plays, but he's a good possession guy. Very, very smooth, quick. I think he's solid. He just, Lamar Jackson just ain't, he don't always pass the ball very well. He's not a really good Lamar Jackson type of receiver, but he's solid. Quentin Johnson, I think, has been a bust overall. I don't think he's been very good. Injuries have not helped, but he hasn't been very, very, very good player. Jackson Smith and Jigba, stud, absolutely blew up last year when he got his opportunity. And then, look at this, bro. Brian Thomas Jr. is one of the young, up-and-coming wide receiver stars. Roma Dunze, I thought, was a little bit disappointing. I think there was a lot of factors that went into it. Caleb Williams struggled. They didn't really get a good protection on the line. There was a lot of mouths to feed with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore as well. But he showed some flashes. I loved Roma Dunze, man, last year coming out of college. I thought he was fantastic. I think he's going to be a really good player. And then obviously Malik Neighbors was a grand slam. And Marvin Harrison, I think, will be a lot better in his second season. But he still had a decent first year. I just think it was a little bit overblown or a little bit disappointing, I would say, for the amount of hype that he had. So the numbers show that 13 of the teams, there's a lot, and update the TBD numbers. Yeah, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 here that are to be determined in terms of if they're going to work. But as you guys can clearly see, there's a very significantly clear gap as to should you take a running back versus taking a receiver in the first round and why. And it always boils down to several factors. Receivers have a higher impact on teams. They're very well sought after. They have a really high chance of just hitting because I think teams are getting a lot better at evaluating these guys, especially given like the nuances of the college game and what to look for on the film rather than just the overall production. And the running back position, the injuries is always tough. But you never know like what's going to happen with these guys. They can have all the talent in the world. They can end up being really good running backs, but you run them into the ground and it ends up really shortening a lot of these guys' career. The NFL is slowly merging over to running back by committee backfields. It used to be kind of few and far in between. Now it's basically almost all the teams. There's not really a lot of teams that have like a bell cow running back if you look at it. And so even though I think that that's a really good idea, it keeps these guys healthier. It allows for, a lot more running backs to play for longer periods of time. Guys like Aaron Jones have been in the league for a really long time, super productive. There's been a lot of those guys that have really signed second, third, fourth, fifth contracts that you like because they've been more part-time players and not always getting a bulk of it. But are you going to spend a first-round pick on somebody that's going to be splitting time? That's another thing to be thinking about as well. It's not going to be playing a lot. So a lot of these factors got to be put into it and got to be evaluated. Now, in addition to that, this is, by everybody's standards, this is a historically deep running back class. Historically. One of the best running back classes in recent memory. And so that is just another reason why you should wait. Another reason. The only time you ever have a class where you have a very, very deep positional group and you shouldn't wait is if it's very deep at quarterback, obviously, if it's very deep at tackle, and if it's very deep at edge rusher. If it's very deep at those, teams are going to go up there and try to get in. It's going to force everybody to slide back because those are the premium positions. This one, it's like, man, you can still wait until the second round and get somebody that's really good and team them up with another player, whether it be undrafted free agent, whether it be somebody on your current roster, somebody you pick later on in the draft, and be able to extend and give them a shelf life. Another thing is, guys, we already know Sean Payton will have a running back by committee. I'm telling you guys, he could trade up and get Ashton Genty, who's a generational talent. Probably the best running back I've ever seen coming out of college in my memory, my recent memory. And he would still probably split carries with somebody else. I think a lot of it is just because that's the kind of system that he runs. But another big part of it is he'd rather have these guys stay healthy, and it's smart. It is very smart. It's frustrating for us fantasy lovers and sometimes us fans, but it is smart. I would rather have guys play for a long period of time. Look how long Alvin Kamara has been in the league for, and he's not a big guy, but it's because he hasn't ever really been a high volume carry guy. He's just a very productive player that can play into his 30s at running back. Very rare, but it happens. And he's even been able to overcome some injuries. So I like that. And then Mark Ingram's another example. So one thing when you look at Sean Payton's history with running backs, not only has he always been productive and gotten really good production out of the run game and out of running backs, he's had some guys that have played a long time. Darren Sproles played a lot longer in the league than he should have for somebody that plays that position and is his size, right? Reggie Bush had a decently long career, for running back, considering for running backs. Mark Ingram, Pierre Thomas had a few really good years there. There's a lot of them, but Mark Ingram played like 10 seasons. That's a lot. And really good ones, really, really good productive years that he had as well. So, yeah, I think that it's just clear and obvious. Now, again, I'll preface by saying it. If the Broncos draft Amarion Hampton at 20, or they take Trevion Henderson or Quinshon Judkins, I'm going to be excited. A, because I'm like, all right, well, I finally know who the Broncos are going to take. But B, because I love the running back position. You guys have to understand, I fell in love with football because of Terrell Davis, because of running the ball, because of the zone scheme where he breaks it out with that toss play, shows the patience, put his foot in the dirt, takes off running, sheds a tackle or shakes a dude out of his boots, and boom, he's off to the races. I loved it. I loved the Tatum Bell days. I loved watching Clinton Portis run. I loved watching I even liked watching Olandis Gary, even though he was slow as hell. It drove me a little bit nuts. I loved Mike Anderson and Reuben Drones. Mike Allstott. I loved Mike. He was a fullback. I loved Mike Allstott. He was my dude. I loved watching Warwick Dunn ball out. I'm trying to go through all the running backs that I loved to watch growing up. Man, there was LaDainian Tomlinson. He would kill the Broncos, but man, did I love watching him play. I loved Larry Johnson. I liked Priest Holmes. I just liked to watch him. I liked Jamal Charles. Even though they were on rival teams, I loved watching these dudes play, man. I loved seeing the way that they played football, and I always loved the running back position, and that's why this has been a really fun offseason draft for me, because I've been able to really dive into some of these running back films, and there's so many of these guys in this draft that I love. Guys that I haven't even put into in my top 10, man, that I just think are fun. They're going to be good players. So I love the running back position. So I'm going to be excited to evaluate and watch it, but I will never say, oh, that was a really great pick, because the value is not there. You have to take a long-term approach as a fan as well. You got to look at what kind of value are we getting, right? It might be nice to buy that brand new Cadillac Escalade or a BMW or that Mercedes when you get it right off the lot. You're going to feel so good about it. And then in 2-3 years, you're going to really regret that you had it. Where you could have just gotten yourself a nice, Camry that was a couple years old and drove it for, 10, 15 years and really maximized your dollars or maximized your value. You got to look at it like that, especially in the draft. Especially in the draft. It's another reason why I loved what the Broncos did in the offseason with the free agents, because not only do I feel like we got really good players, we definitely did not overspend for them. And that is awesome. So appreciate you guys, man. Let me know what you guys think below in the comments. Should the Broncos take a running back? Should they take a wide receiver? Do you think running back should be completely off the table? Whatever you want to say it. Please do. Let me know below in the comments. And until the next video, man, y'all be sure to spend time with those people that you love the most. And, of course, peace out, baby.